back, everybody, to another episode of In the Green Room with Aidan Keene. I'm very excited today to be joined by one of my favorite vocalists in the music industry, Mr. Bucky Heard. He's fresh off the release of his new album, Breathless, which we're about to talk about a little bit. And you may also recognize him as being one half of the Righteous Brothers with the legendary Bill Medley. So, Bucky, thank you for being here with me today.
Oh, Aiden, thanks for having me, man. I've been looking forward to speaking with you.
Thank you. Me too. I've been looking forward to having you on. This is great.
I love what you're doing, man. Uh, you're old school, man. That's really great.
It's the best music, and I've been lucky to grow up with it, so I'm glad to be
me,
able to.
yeah, me too, man. That's my mom raised me right. My first album was Chuck Berry's Greatest Hits, man.
Nice. Right on. So I gave your album a listen yesterday to the new Breathless album. It is fantastic. I really
Thank
enjoyed
you.
it. And so I'd love to learn more about the creative process behind it and what led you to this release.
Well, Bill, I've been with Bill now. We're about to start, wow, our 11th season together. 11 years we've been doing it. And last year, Bill said, I want to I want to get on the Love and Feeling farewell tour, which means, basically he's going to start winding it down a little bit, not doing as much road stuff and kind of, he's 85 now. Sounds better than ever, dude. I mean, like he just came up with an album too. I don't know if you've heard his album. It's called Straight from the Heart. Yeah, check it out. He does a duet with Vince Gill, with Michael McDonald, with Sean Colvin, with Kev Moe, but it's all country, like kind of what I did. He's doing George Jones and Chris Christopherson and all these great songs. And he made his debut at the Grand Ole Opry about 3 4 months ago, and I was in the audience. At 85 years old, making his debut at the Opry. But he kind of told me he's doing his solo work. He said, "I really think you need to start thinking about." Post Righteous Brothers. I mean, you'll always be a righteous brother. And he's given me permission. Like when I don't know that he'll ever retire. He basically said, we're on the farewell tour because we have a lot of venues that were really good to him and Bobby and that have been good to us. So he wants to make sure we have a chance to go to all those venues before he kind of calls it a day. But he said, you need to start thinking about what you're going to do after this. You'll always be Bucky Heard of the Righteous Brothers. But do you want to, what we just talked about before we jumped on, do something like the Happy Together tour where it's Jay and the Americas and Bucky Heard of the Righteous Brothers and the Letterman or whatever? You can do that and you can sing these oldie songs. Uh, or he goes, you can, you know, jump into a lane and see what you have to offer as a solo artist. And my whole album, I wanted to encourage people, whether you're 8 or 80 years old, it's dreams don't have a shelf life. The one thing you don't want to live with is regret. So, pick that dream up off the shelf, dust it off, and give it a shot and do your best. Failure I can live with. Uh, Regret I can't. So I decided to jump in this lane. I'm from South Alabama. I People have only heard me do Righteous Brothers. I'm a musical theater guy. My degree is in theater, so I've studied theater. I've done musical. I've done operas. I had an '80s rock band that we were a hair band. We were doing Bon Jovi and Journey and Motley Crue and all that stuff. But my roots were in Southern rock and roll. And we can kind of be honest. If the Eagles were to come out today, they'd probably be classified as country.
Right.
uh, Tequila Sunrise. Those are country songs, kind of. So I decided to jump into this rock and roll lane and produce this original album. There's 7 songs on it and one cover. The only cover I did is Crying, as you know. And Bill picked that song for me. So I've been doing that in the Righteous Brothers show now for 10, almost 11 years. And it's kind of become a signature song. My whole career, Aiden, I promise you, I have purposely stayed away from Orbison. I felt like he is untouchable as a vocalist. Elvis called him the voice, and Bill knew him and was friends with him, and he actually picked that song for me. He
Wow.
said, "I want about 4 songs into the Righteous Brothers show. I want you to do a song that people aren't going to compare you to Bobby." So he picked that song, and you should have seen my face. I was like, he's like, "Trust me, I'm going to build this arrangement around you." I was doing a Journey show actually I always credit Journey for getting me the Righteous Brothers gig. He came in and I was doing a bunch of Journey songs in my show, and he was like, "Wow, you could do Journey, you could do Bobby." So I decided to jump in this lane, and the process was about a year long. First you got to pick the songs. I had probably 100 songs pitched to me from song pluggers in Nashville, and I don't know if you've ever been to Nashville, but there's no shortage of two things: songwriters and musicians. Incredible, better than anywhere in the world, I would dare say. So we narrowed down the songs to seven originals that were written by some of the greatest writers in Nashville. Ken Blasey, who wrote Garth Brooks' first hit, If Tomorrow Never Comes. Mark Green, who wrote Baby, I'm Amazed by You. Lone Star. Some of these greatest writers pitched songs to me. And so I picked seven and eight, including Crying, but I picked seven songs that I thought would encourage people, would uplift people, bringing back that Bob Seger rock and roll, Creedence Clearwater Revival sound, and add to that these beautiful ballads like you heard on the album, Empty, Miss Me Yet, A Little Less Beautiful, which is an incredible song. So I can sing, lay your soul to rest. Oh, my love. And then I can go 737 coming out of the sky. So it gives me the ability to keep that beautiful ballads that are signature of the Righteous Brothers, and then bring in this gritty rock and roll sound to try to create something that would uh, sort of be a brand for me, so that hopefully I will keep the Righteous Brothers fans that have been coming out to hear us for the last 10 years, and then add people like maybe in the Southern rock vein that didn't know I could do that or wasn't aware that that was my roots. So, my goal was on this record to bring a little bit of all of those elements, the beautiful ballads that the Righteous Brothers are known for with Unchained Melody and and See That Girl and some of their beautiful ballads, and bring that in with my Southern heritage, and throw down with some, like I said, some Seeger and some of that really gritty rock and roll sound. So that was the goal on the album. Of course, then we finished the album. Then you got to pick the artwork. Then you got to pick the title of it was just a whole process. And I make a joke. I did my album release party here last week in Vegas at the Italian American Club. I said I'm not Italian, but I am by association. And so um, we sold it out and had a great release. But I was telling everybody at the release, it's kind of like giving birth when you do a project like this, because you go through all the growing pains of, oh, this song doesn't work, this isn't working, and then you go and I had at least three photography sessions trying to capture that perfect album cover picture, and you go through all that. And so you go through all these growing pains and all these labor pains, and then you release the album, and it's like giving birth. And I said, the hope is that the baby doesn't look like Joe Pesci. So, that's the goal. So, and I think we accomplished it. But really, when people listen to this new album and when they come to see my concerts live, I my goal is to uplift people, to encourage people, and for them to leave my concerts, or once they listen to my album, feeling better about themselves and about the world around them. Just kind of return love and kindness in a cool rock and roll, meatloafy format. So that was the goal, and I feel like we did pretty good. We did pretty good at accomplishing that.
Absolutely, and it's really funny that you say Meatloaf too, because when I was listening to it yesterday, the title track came on. It reminded me so much of I think All Revved Up with No Place to Go. I think.
Yes,
And I said that out
I
loud. I was
hear
like,
that,
wow,
man.
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's that drive, man. That just and some of these songs on the album, like the title cut, "Breathless," just comes at you 100 miles an hour. And I love the energy of that, like "Breathless" and even "Ride the Lightning." Those songs just really come at you full steam ahead, and then you'll hear, "A Little Less Beautiful," some of the beautiful ballads that are on there. So I think we really ran a thread through these songs and were able to balance. the different elements of what I do, which was the goal.
Right, and it's funny when you were talking about crying earlier. I have the Righteous Brothers album that you did with Bill a few years back, and a
Yeah,
version of Crying on there. But this particular version of Crying on your newest release, the intro really stood out to me, and it kind of reminded me of like a Mavericks, Chris Isaac kind of thing.
I can't believe you just said that. I mean, you're the first thing I said when I heard that intro was I didn't think you can make this song any better, but that. So we're on the way to the studio. We recorded my album at Curb Records. Sorry, I'm going to backtrack a little bit because that's crazy that you said that. Uh, Me and my producer Bob are in his car. We're on our way to the studio to lay down the rhythm tracks with the band at Curb Records. And Chris Lusinger, who I mentioned earlier, my music director, project director for the music, calls us on the phone and says, "I've got an idea for the intro to Crying to make it a little bit different." And he said, and he goes, "If you don't like it, we don't have to do it." And of course, Bob and I look at each other. He's on the speakerphone, and we're like, that's Chris Lusinger. Like, we're not going to like it. And we got in the studio, and the first thing I said was, "That is so melancholy. It sounds like Chris Isaac. It sounds like a Chris Isaac song." I used that exact analogy. It's so crazy that you said that, but yeah, it totally has that. I wanna fall in love. That
Mhm.
kind of it leans into that, which I thought was really, really nice, and it's one of my favorite things about this new version of the song that we did. We really gave it our own signature. If you can, like I said, it wasn't the vocals. I still don't think anybody can touch Roy. But as far as arrangement, I'm like, God, I think I like this arrangement even better than the original, if I can be so bold to say that.
It's really cool, and like that was the first thing that jumped into my mind. And one of my favorite
Man,
singers ever is Raul Malo from the
great
Mavericks.
minds, man. Great minds think alike.
Absolutely, and it's reminded me of it, and I loved it. It's so
Yeah,
cool.
great. I'm glad that came through to you as well.
Absolutely. And it's funny, you said you sang Journey at one point.
Yeah,
When I heard your version of Open Arms on the Through the Years album,
yeah.
I was like, yeah, this makes so much sense.
Oh, yeah. Journey got me the gig. I've been, believe it or not, I'd worked in Branson for 20 something years during the good years. And I got to sing with Andy Williams. I got to sing with Tony Orlando. I got to sing with, you know, uh, so many great entertainers and Mickey Gilley and the Gatlins. And I was doing a tribute show. It's called Legends in Concert
Oh
at
yeah.
Clark's American Bandstand Theater, and they pay tribute to they look alike, they sound like the artists, they look like the artists. And I did John Mellencamp for Legends, but I did 12 years. I did the Blues Brothers. I was John Belushi and the Blues Brothers. You can see pictures of me online with the chops, and I'm flipping around and boy, just beating my body up. And I did that for 12 years. And Bill would come to the show because I shared a dressing room with a guy. He's the best, I dare say, the best Elvis tribute artist on the planet. His name is Dean Z. And I don't know if you're familiar with.
Oh
He's
yes.
touring Europe. He's touring Brazil. He's touring all over. And he and I shared a room. We shared a room, dressing room together. Me and my partner that did Elwood and Dean. And Dean was in Bill's show, uh, The Hop. He had a dinner theater in Orange County, and at 17 years old, Dean was his Elvis, and so he was real close to Dean. So he would come backstage to say hi to Dean, and then I got to know him, and I had a 10-piece horn band that played every Saturday night, called the Horn Dogs. 22 years I played with these guys, and we're flying the Family Stone and Power of Power and Blood, Sweat, and Tears in Chicago and Fort Big Horn section. And so Bill started coming out to hear us, and he'd jump on stage and sing with us. It's just I've got a clip from 2007 where I introduced him, and he got up and did some blues with us, not having a clue that I'd be singing with him. Some 8 years later. But I ran into him at Dean's wedding, and I hadn't seen him in a long time. This was 2014, summer of 2015. And I'd quit Legends at this point. I had an opportunity to go. My friend John Susan opened up a tribute theater, and he was doing the Eagles twice a week, Creedence Clearwater Revival, and Journey. and he asked me if I wanted to leave Legends and come over and join his show and front the Journey show. So when I ran into Bill at the wedding, he goes, "So you left Legends? That was a solid gig for you. You've been there 12 years." I said, "Yeah, man. I kind of got tired of singing Soul Man, and and I had this opportunity to sing Journey, which is one of my favorite groups, and Creedence Clearwater and the Eagles. I mean, and I went from doing 12 shows a week to doing 6 at the most. So I was able to be home with my daughter who was young. And anyway, I told Bill, and he goes, "You're doing Journey like that?" Because he had heard me sing, everybody, Blues Brothers. And
Right.
so I said, "Well, yeah." I said, "I'm doing Journey." I said, "Actually, we have a show tomorrow afternoon." It was Sunday afternoon. We had a matinee. I said, "There's not going to be many people there because the Journey show was a little ahead of its time at that point. Eagles was sold out. CCR sold out. Journey was still kind of finding its fan base." So I said, "Yeah." So I didn't think he'd come. And 5 minutes before showtime, I get a call. He said, "Hey, man, I'm going to come in and catch you out, check you out for a couple songs. I won't probably stick around." I came to find out, he told me later he was having dinner with a mutual friend of ours the night before and he was like, "I just don't hear Bucky doing Journey, man. I just don't hear it." And so I confronted him about that later. I said, "So you came to see me in the Journey show because you didn't think I could do it." And he didn't even bat an eye. He said, "Exactly." He said, "What do singers like more than to see another singer die on stage?" So he said, "I thought you were gonna die." And so he stayed for the whole show. And then the next night he called me and said, "I'm gonna come back and see the Creedence Clearwater Revival show." And he did. And then that kind of started the whole thing, which I found interesting because Steve Perry has the elements of Bobby Hatfield's sweet, pretty voice. You know, "Whoa, my sent out my love," same kind of pretty tone. But then Bobby could growl. "So
Mhm.
bring it on back," and Love It and Feeling. And then you've got Fogerty doing 737 till the night of the sky. So I felt like Bill heard the 2 elements of Bobby's voice in those 2 shows, and he invited me to lunch. We had lunch at Fuddruckers, and he told me, "I'm thinking about this. I don't know if it's gonna happen." And a couple of weeks later, we went to dinner again, and I went to his house, and we recorded, you know, Love and Feelin' and Soul and Inspiration and some of the hits. We did the choruses, and he sent it to our manager, which had managed Bill and the Righteous Brothers since the '60s. David Cohen had just passed away a couple years ago. And he said David cried on the phone. It's like uh, you can have 2 voices, but we didn't know if our voices were going to lock, and they did. And so Bill called me about a week later after that and said, "We have 3 weeks. I'm sorry, we have 3 months at Harrah's in Las Vegas. I can't promise you anything past that. I don't know if people are going to care that the Righteous Brothers are back." Because at that time he had been going out as Bill Medley of the Righteous Brothers.
Right.
He said, "I don't know if they're going to accept anybody else stepping into Bobby's shoes. And we're going to have to find out." So I pretty much left my show, I left everything, came to Vegas, and 3 months has turned into 10 years.
Wow.
So it's kind
That's
of a long
amazing.
story, but it was interesting. You could not have planned that. That's why I believe in divine intervention. And Bill and I not only are uh, musically connected, but we love the same things. We both love football. We both love boxing. We both love Seinfeld. We both love Andy Griffith. We both love a really good brunch. We just like couldn't have drawn it up. Couldn't have planned it like
Right.
like it went down.
That's amazing. My 2 mentors from Legends, one is named Doug Church. He played Elvis with them
What
for
up, Doug?
7 years, yeah. Um, and the other one actually just recently passed, and he played as Roy in Legends, Brian McAuliffe.
Yeah, so he fought a hard fight, man.
He sure did.
But yeah, and I'm sorry for the loss of your friend, and he was a friend of mine too. Yeah, Legends is pretty incredible. The people that they find. Um, right before I left, I was actually going to do a Bob Seger, which I have to send you the picture. I mean, I did the makeup and well, I'm kind of like him anyway. I've got more gray hair than I had back then, but yeah, Legends is a great platform, and it's just you know they gainfully employed me for 12 years, and I got to work with some of the best Elvis tribute artists. My mom was a huge Elvis fan. Her and Elvis had the same birthday. She introduced me to his movies. I mean, I remember I lost my mom at a very young age, but she really brought that music like home to me, uh, and that's why on my Through the Years album, I did "If I Can Dream." But I wanted to do a stripped down version of it, so it's not doesn't have all the background vocals and drums. It's pretty much acoustic guitar, electric guitar, and B3. And no, and I wanted to do a real soulful version of that song to pay tribute to Elvis because I have where he and hearing Bill, like, man, you being an Elvis fan, I mean, just sitting with Bill at dinner and him talking about some of the stories about him and Elvis. He spent nights at Graceland. I mean, he and Elvis spent when he was at the International. Elvis was in the big room and Bill was in the lounge. And Elvis would call him, and he would go down to Elvis's dressing room and sit there for an hour. He said it was just him, Elvis, and Elvis's hairdresser. And and he said they sit there, and he goes, and he was just a real guy, just soulful, just a real guy. But to hear him tell the stories about Elvis and finding out that Elvis is exactly who you thought he was, that kind, loving, give you the shirt off his back. And Bill said, "Yeah, man. I mean, he was a superstar, but when you got one on one with him, he was just the kindest, sweetest guy."
That's what I've heard, and little Anthony was telling me about that too.
Yeah, I know. I heard that in the interview. That was, which I'm a huge fan of Little Anthony as well. So.
When we finish up, I'll have to send you the video. I have a video of us doing "You've Lost That Love and Feeling" at some point, one of our
Well,
shows,
that'd be
so
great. That's awesome, man.
one question I have for you when it comes to performing with Bill, I mean, you had quite the career beforehand, but when you were stepping into this role, was there a sense of nervousness in taking on the responsibility of, you know, stepping into Bobby Hatfield's position?
Yeah, that's a question I get asked a good bit, and it's a very good question. I remember Bill and I told you we went at lunch, and he told me he was thinking about this, and a couple weeks later, we went to a steakhouse, and in the middle of dinner, he just holds up his glass and says, "Are we going to do this?" And I was like, "Are you serious?" And he said, "Yeah." He goes, "You're the guy. I wasn't looking for it, but I just know I can feel it in my heart. You're the guy." And so I said, "We clinked glasses." He said, "Now we just have to get a gig." So the day he called me to tell me that we had 3 months at Harrah's in Vegas, a buddy of mine and we were at a concert in Kansas City. We went to see Van Halen and Kenny Wayne Shepherd, which is a great concert. And and we're having a drink in the hotel room, and Bill calls me. He says, "We got 3 months." And my buddy Paul's like standing beside me, going like waiting. And I get off the phone, and I said, "I guess I'm a righteous brother," because we have 3 months at Harris. And he's jumping up and down on the bed and freaking out, like, he's just so happy. And I'm just looking like, you know, at that point, what you just said, the gravity of what I'm about to step into hit me. And my buddy Paul goes, "Dude," he goes, you don't seem happy. Why aren't you freaking out?" I said, "Dude, I am freaking out on a whole different level that you don't even probably get. I'm about to step into the iconic shoes of Bobby Hatfield, and I am going to be judged according to him at the standard that he set by every Righteous Brothers fan." And on social media, I couldn't even get on because people were saying, "Who does this guy think he is? There's only one righteous brother," and blah blah blah. And it would hurt my feelings, and I would get upset. And when I would step on the stage, you could feel it. Like I used to joke it with Bill, say, "Bill's here and I'm here." I felt like the curtain would come up and everybody would look at Bill like, "Oh," and then they would do this. I mean, and Bill said, "You're being crazy." He said, "But we need to answer those two questions. Do they care? And are they going to accept?" And we did our first show at Laughlin, to put the show up before coming into Vegas. We did 5 shows. And Bill, we're at breakfast, and Bill said, I'm going to call our tour manager and find out how we're doing. And he's like, yeah, great, great. Okay, cool. Oh, that's great. All right. So he hangs up and he says, well, we were at Don Laughlin's Riverside Casino, 700-seater, 5 nights we're there. He said, we're sold out. I said, oh, great, we're sold out tonight. He goes, no, we're sold out all 5 nights. So he said, that answers that one question. People want to see the Righteous Brothers. So now it comes down to if they want to see me. So we go out on stage that night. I told you the curtain comes up. I feel like everybody's judging me. I mean, I was a nervous wreck. And Bill introduces me and says, Bucky's going to sing Crying. So he leaves the stage. I swear to you, I closed my eyes and I sang Crying. And I opened my eyes and everybody was standing. And Bill came out and said, that answers that question. So over time, all the haters, who does this guy think he is? There's only 2 Righteous Brothers, and he's not one of them, and blah, 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 and all the hate. Now, after 10 years, if somebody says that, like on our social media, the Righteous Brothers, somebody knocks me down or says something, I got 50 people that come. Have you seen the show? They pay tribute to Bobby, and these up on and so I've been really accepted. And I say that in the show now. Uh, I asked Bill if I can have a moment just with the real quick with the audience, and I tell the audience in the show, I said, it's just incredible that this little kid that played these records in his room when he was a little kid. I played these records in my room, trying to emulate Bobby, singing to the Righteous Brothers, and I said, in this little tiny town in Alabama. And here I am standing on stage with a rock and roll icon, keeping this music alive. I said, it's unbelievable. And I want to thank you all for welcoming me into the Righteous Brothers family. It is a true honor, and it gets a really great response. Um, but, but yeah, I answered your question in a long way because it's terrifying, dude. It was terrifying. And I'd never been so scared in my life. I've never stepped on stage. You get butterflies because you're excited, as you know, being a performer, but it's different. It's different doing this. It means so much. And I got one shot at it and I got to make it work. So thank you, Jesus. It worked.
It's amazing. And I feel that I used to get really nervous before my shows, and, I actually took the Roy Orbison technique and wore sunglasses, to kind of avoid that, but over this past summer, we played an Elvis tribute show, and there were 780 something people there, and, that was the biggest crowd I ever played for, but once I realized what the people in the audience were experiencing in terms of memories and joy, that
Yes,
made everything worth it.
100%. And listen, I used to teach musical theater and all my students, and I would tell them, say, listen, when you go in for an audition or a performance, there's no reason to be scared because these people are there. They want to love you. It's not like they're sitting out there going, I hope he's bad. They want to give you the love. They want to love you. They're on your side. They're pulling for you. So it's not this. And one thing that I learned too is I treat the audience like one person. I look at the audience as one. So that doesn't get overwhelming, and as long as you're on stage and you're being real, uh, like Bill told me one time, he said, you got to be sincere. You've got to, because the audience can smell insincerity like blood in the water
Mhm.
if you don't mean it. So, like, you're familiar with Soul and Inspiration.
Yes, one of my
Well,
favorites.
the speaking section. Well, baby, I can't make it without you.
Mm,
And I'm telling you, honey, you're my reason. So I'm a theatrical guy. So when I first started working with Bill, I'm doing this, baby. I can't make it without you. And I'm telling you, you're my reason for laughing, for crying. Bill's sitting there and he goes, my wife's name is AJ. We've been married 30 years. He looks at me and goes, would you say that to AJ that way? And I said, what are you talking about? And he goes, you're mine, all this stuff. He goes, she would laugh at you. But how would you say it to her? I said, well, I'm telling you, honey, you're my reason for laughing, for crying, for living and for dying. He said, do it that way. Tell the audience that way. treat them like, like you're talking to a person, you're having a conversation. And like you said, you see the memories. When Bill goes, "Girl, I can't let you do this," you see the wives, their heads go on their shoulder, their husbands. You can see the memories coming back, and it's kind of funny. After the show, Bill and I used to go up and take pictures with guests after the show, and the wife would come up and go, "Bill, your music meant so much to me and my husband. We would hold hands and listen to your songs and all this." And Bill's like, "Oh, that's wonderful." And then the husband would come up right after her while she's talking, and the husband's like, "Bill, your music, me and the old lady in the back of the car, yeah, completely different interpretations." Yeah, it's just really cool to see those memories and to know that you're a part of bringing those, because music is a time machine, as you know, man. I mean, you hear a song and it takes you right back to where it was when it was popular, when you were listening to it. So, what a gift to be able to do that. And I know you're experiencing that as well. So, you said you had the glasses on. Were you doing Roy?
I was doing Roy, at one
Oh
point.
wow,
Yeah.
dude, you got some chops to do that.
Well, that was before my voice decided to do the thing, that
Oh
it
yeah,
does. But, I still do Roy once in a while. I do a show, it's usually Johnny Cash, Roy, and Elvis. Um,
and
it
you
gets
said you
s
liked putting the glasses on because that gave you a little separation.
Yeah, I decided that if I wore the glasses and I had to close my eyes, because I was so nervous, I was 12 years old, and, if I had to close my eyes just because it was getting to be too much, I could do it. No one would be like, "Why are his eyes closed?" Because they wouldn't see.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Bill told me an interesting story about Sammy Davis Jr. And Sammy Davis Jr. is, in my opinion, perhaps the greatest showman to ever set foot on a stage. I mean, he sang, he danced, he played drums, he played every instrument. He could do the gunslinging thing, he could do roping, he did everything. And and Bill, he would come in to see Bill's show, and Bill would go see his show. And he said to Bill, and Bill told me this, which I found interesting. It's in the same vein, which this was mind blowing to me, knowing Sammy Davis and how great he is or was. He said about 5 or 6 songs in, when he was doing his show, he would wear sunglasses, and then he would take the glasses off and sit them on the piano. And he said to Bill, "Do you know why I wear the sunglasses? Then I take them off later." And Bill said, "Well, Sammy, I assumed it's because Sammy had a glass
Yeah.
eye." He said, "I assumed that was the reason that you had to let your self get acclimated." And he said, "No." He goes, I don't take the glasses off until I'm sure that the audience likes me."
Wow.
I mean, is that not like the greatest, the, perhaps the greatest showman of our time still was insecure?
That's unbelievable.
So it made me feel a lot better.
I had never heard that story. That definitely makes me feel better about it
Yeah.
too. That's
Well,
really
that's what
cool.
Bill starts telling stories, and he'll be, "I don't need, I sound like I'm bragging." I'm like, "You're not bragging. You lived it, man. Like, bring on the Elvis stories. I've got a million Elvis stories that I know you would love." About their time together, and uh, if we have time during this podcast, and you want to hear one toward the end, I'll tell you one that'll kind of blow your mind that I think you'd love. But I don't want to get ahead of you with your. I know you've got certain specific questions that you wanted to ask, uh,
I
I'm
was
kind of long winded, so I apologize for that as well.
That's okay. You've really answered most of my questions, so I'd love to hear that story.
This is my favorite Bill Medley Elvis story. So, uh, and it's great to hear Bill tell it. But so Bill was working the um, the lounge, and Elvis, they were at the International,
Mhm.
which is Westgate now,
Right.
and so Elvis was in the big room, and Elvis and Frank Sinatra were two that were responsible really for the Righteous Brothers being in Vegas. Like Elvis wanted the Righteous Brothers in the lounge when he was doing the main showroom. Like I told you, Bill would go down and hang out with Elvis in the dressing room. So Bill's on stage doing his show this one night, and of course they alternate. Bill did, I think, the Elvis did the 8 o'clock show. Bill did the 10. Elvis did, and then Bill's last show was like 2 in the morning. Uh, so Bill's on stage singing "Love and Feeling," and the joke was, some of Elvis's the Memphis Mafia were like, Elvis was like, "Hey, Medley's, Medley's doing my song, man," So Elvis decided he wanted to play a joke on Bill. So Bill's on stage during his show. And I don't know if you've experienced this, but a lot of these older casinos, to get to the stage, you have to kind of go through the kitchen, you know.
Mhm.
It's interesting how you know, to get to the stage. So if you're when you're on stage, if something weird happens, like somebody shows up, you know, it's like they're in your bedroom. You know, you're very aware of what's going on around you when you're on stage performing. Well, Bill said out of the corner of his eye, he sees some movement coming onto the stage, and he's right in the middle of Living Feeling. And here comes Elvis. Now Elvis, nobody had seen Elvis for a while because he was doing the movies. So he had just come back, and so the buzz was all over Vegas. You know, Elvis is back. He quit doing concerts for a little while he was doing all the movies, but now he's back in Vegas, and the buzz was around town and all this. So here comes Elvis. Bill's singing, you know, baby, baby, I get it. He goes, Elvis comes walking past him, doesn't look at him, and this ain't the end of the story. It gets better. Elvis walks past him. As he walks by, doesn't even look, just keeps going. He taps him on the chest and just goes, "Hi, Bill," and keeps walking. So the audience goes bananas. Everybody, Bill said, screaming and yelling. You know, people are throwing babies in the air. He said it was nuts. So, Bill's next show, which was at like 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, there was a line to get in. You know, because they had heard Elvis showed up,
Yep.
and Bill's thinking. Bill said, he goes, "I'm thinking to myself, you know, I don't have the heart to tell him he's not coming back. I mean, that was just a fluke thing." So he gets into the show. Baby, baby, I get down on my knees. Here he comes again. This time he's got his Memphis Mafia and about 10 of the wait staff. And every one of them goes by, not looking at him. They go by, "Hi, Bill, Bill, hi, Bill." And Bill said, the song's over and they're still going by. "Hey, Bill, hey, Bill, hey, Bill." The crowd was going nuts. Bill said, "I can't even," he goes, and it went on for what it seemed like 10 minutes. And he said, when it finally died down, Bill said he looked at the audience and said, "I don't know who he is, but now he's starting to piss me off." Elvis got word that Bill said that and calls him and said, "Hey, listen, man, I was just playing a joke, man. I hope I didn't mess up your show." And Bill said, "Are you kidding me? My next show's at 8 o'clock."
That's awesome.
Isn't that I just mind blowing that, and it shows the kind of guy he was. You know, that's old school, man, playing jokes on each other like that on stage. But yeah, Bill and Elvis were really, really, really close friends, and uh, he said him and Elvis were riding around on Elvis's golf cart, and Elvis was showing him Graceland, and Lisa Marie came out, and I mean, I'm sorry, Priscilla came out. It was Lisa Marie's first birthday party,
Oh,
and he
wow.
was there, and they cut the cake, and yeah, just cool, man. Hearing all these, you know, about Sinatra, and I just sit at dinner with him sometimes and just go, you know, talk to me, man. Tell me some stuff. It's great. It's really, really cool.
I love those stories. Elvis definitely was a prankster. One of my favorite stories, and it seems kinda crazy and dangerous, but apparently in Elvis's father's office, he used to have a little bowl of red M&Ms. It was just the red ones, and Elvis used to get the little red, the snaps that you throw in the ground and then they pop and they make I think they're called snaps or
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that, and he'd fill the bowl with those. So when Vernon would pop them in his mouth, they'd start, like, popping in his mouth and everything, and Elvis would be dying in the corner. But, I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, have you been to Graceland? I'm guessing you have.
Yeah, we went last year.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been about 3 times. We actually played, you know, they built a sound stage across from Graceland.
Yep,
So and we played that last year or year before and got a private tour of Graceland and got to see some of the rooms that you don't get to see on the regular tour. And boy, it's a religious experience to go through there, man. It really is.
it sure is. It was the best days of my life, that's for sure.
I'm sure, man. I'm sure. When's your next show?
I do a lot of senior centers around here, so I play them very frequently. My next one is next Wednesday, actually, but,
Well, that's great, dude.
I can't,
Hey, man, that's
say too much, but I will.
you won't find a more. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I can't say too much about it because it's still in the works, but I'm actually working out a show with another Elvis guy in a local theater around here, which will be the biggest thing I've done. Um, so that's also coming up.
fantastic, dude. Well, performing in those seniors, you'll never have a more loving, appreciative audience, man. I like to do that when I get a chance. I'll go do the same thing. And yeah, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. Again, you see the memories, man. All those people grew up with Elvis, and
Abs
I just love that with these movies, these last two movies that came out. Um, the one about Priscilla, and then the Elvis movie. Uh, really revamped all that music because my daughter, she's 20 now, but she's a dancer. She was 18 and she knows every Elvis song because I was always with Elvis tribute artists. I worked with Tony Roy. I worked with me and Tony are great friends, and Tony was the original. Uh, I think he was the best in the world at the time. Uh, Sean Clush, Bill Cherry, uh, Leo Days, Shane
Leo is one of my
DeVois.
friends.
Dude, I love Leo. He and I. So the year before I started doing the Righteous Brothers, maybe 2 years, uh, they asked me if I would be a backup singer. It was the show that was out called Elvis Lives, and Dean Z was young Elvis. Uh, Leo Leo Days was middle
Yep.
years leather Elvis, and then Bill Cherry was jumpsuit Elvis, which I think Bill is incredible. If you've never seen Bill, and I was a backup singer, I got to sing backup for all those songs, and we toured. We did 28 shows in 31 days
Wow.
on a bus, and filling up huge theaters, man. So I think you'll have a lot of success with that. But I was glad to see these movies come back because my daughter said, she goes, "Dad, I know all the Elvis songs, but my friends that are my age, he was starting to like you say Sinatra to somebody that's 25. They probably don't even know one song he did." And like Righteous Brothers, is kind of experiencing the same thing. 10 years ago, I could say if we were out on the road having dinner, somebody would say, "Hey, what are you guys doing in town?" I said, "Well, we're doing a show right down here. We're the Righteous Brothers." They went, "Oh my God." Now, 10 years later, they're like, "Righteous Brothers." I'm like, "You've lost that living feeling?" They don't, nope. Unchained, no. And how about I've had the time of, we know that one,
Yeah.
which isn't even a Righteous Brothers song, it's Bill.
Right.
Uh, but yeah, it's just a shame, and it's up to us, people like yourself, doing Elvis to keep that music alive because it's too good. It's too good to go away. Thanks for what you're doing, keeping it alive.
Thank you, and, I appreciate that, and I'll tell you, I could tell stories all day too, but I think you'll appreciate this one. Since we both know Leo, um, Leo was one of the first Elvis guys I ever saw when I was 3 years old, and, we've kept in touch over the years, and last year, we went to go see him in Rhode Island, and, he knew I was gonna be there, and we met up after the show, and he said, "Hang loose one second, I'm gonna run backstage, I have something for you." And he came out, and he gave me his gold lame jacket from the '50s Elvis, and he said, "It doesn't really fit me much anymore, so it's all yours."
That is so. That is so awesome. Oh God, I think we played. What do you remember the name of the? Is it Woonsocket?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we played there. Actually, we played there right after Leo was there, and I took a picture with his pictures on the wall. I took a picture, pointing at it and sent it to him. We did a mall shop cruise too a few years ago, and Leo was on doing performing as Elvis. Does he still do it a lot? He has. I know. I think he got away from it for a little while, didn't he? Like he
I
wasn't doing it as all.
think so, yeah, he comes here yearly, but I think things is and in fact, we kinda share a band when he comes up to Massachusetts. The band that backs me will also back Leo,
Take
so
back sample. That's
yeah,
cool. He's
yeah.
he's a great dude. When you talk to him, please tell him that I said hello and give him my very best. I love that guy. He's a great guy.
I sure
And
will.
and too bad he's not in better shape.
I know,
I
that
mean,
was
he
the
took his
issue.
shirt off backstage. He's like doing insanity. He's freaking shredded.
I put the jacket on to see how it fit, and it was great length, and then the shoulders, I felt like I was wearing shoulder pads. I'm like, "Oh,
Like
man."
your jacket. Jacket. Yeah, dude. He
Exactly.
he was freaking ripped. Like he is in incredible shape. But yeah, I love the fact that all these ETAs are keeping the music alive, man. Like you said, it's um, Tony Orlando. Um, are you familiar with Tony Orlando? I'm sure you are.
Absolutely, one of my
Yeah, I mean,
favorites.
being old. being old school. So I was a dancer for Tony Orlando at his show back in '96.
Wow.
I was a dancer and backup singer in Tony's show, and Tony and I got to be real close. And when Bill was going to hire me as his partner, he reached out to Tony because he knew Tony knew me, and Tony gave me accolades. He said, "You won't find a better partner, than Bucky Heard. That is exactly who you should do it with." So Tony really went to bat for me. So my one of my biggest influence as a vocalist. It's going to sound weird, but I'm a theatrical guy, you know, and when in 5th grade, I heard Kiss for the first time, and the makeup and the blowing fire and the blood and the whole theatrics of it, I just fell in love with Kiss, and Paul Stanley, the lead singer for Kiss, is one of my favorite singers of all time. I mean, he actually played Phantom in Phantom of the Opera when Kiss wasn't on, so he's a theater guy as well, and I've always wanted to meet him, so Tony arranged a phone call for me for my birthday this last year, my 60th birthday, and said, "Listen, you need to pick up the phone. Somebody's going to call you. I'm not going to tell you who it is. When the phone rings, you pick it up." And so I pick it up, and he goes, "Bucky," and I said, "Yes." He goes, "Paul Stanley." I mean, and it'd be like you talking to Elvis,
Yeah.
like if Elvis still, And I said, "Paul, my God," I told him that he's the reason I'm a righteous brother. I mean, I wanted to sound like him, and that's what made me inspired me to want to sing. My parents would actually punish me by taking away my Kiss albums, and I put the makeup on. I sent him a picture of me in '75 with the makeup on. I was dressed up like him, and we used to take lighter fluid and take a mouthful of lighter fluid and blow. I mean, that was the '70s. We did all kinds of stupid stuff. But anyway, I told him what I was going to do. I was about getting ready to do a new album and that I'm going to try to go out there as a solo artist. He said, "Well, Bucky, that's great." He goes, "But let me impress this upon you." He goes, "You have a legion of fans that have followed you and the Righteous Brothers over the last 10 years. It's like exactly what we were just talking about." He said, "Please do not let this Righteous Brothers music, though some music is too good to go away. And I think you have a responsibility to keep that music and that sound alive." So that was at that point, I'm like, wow. So that's my goal in my shows that I'm doing now. I'm doing Bucky Heard, Journey and the Eagles and Heartache Tonight and all. But then I'm also doing the Orbison, Unchained Melody. I've had the time of my life with the girl, one of our girl singers, and I'm doing Karamia. So I'm trying to keep that old sound uh, as a tribute to Bill and the last 10 years. But I just found it interesting that Paul Stanley, you know, yes,
Mhm.
said he was such a fan of the Righteous Brothers and that this music is too good to go away. So I feel like you and I and and Leo and all these guys, Dean Z, we have a responsibility to make sure that this music never dies.
Absolutely. That's the best part of this whole thing for me. I mean, it is that responsibility, but to carry on with it is really, really cool.
Yeah, if you can, and like you said, if you can do it and you have the ability to do it, and people want to hear you do it, then you need to do it. So I'm going to carry on. Like I said, whenever it comes our last Righteous for the show, and he's told me, he said, "I'm going to do it until they quit coming or the wheels fall off. He goes, whichever comes first." And he's still doing it at a high level. We're still selling out 2,000 seaters. We're about to start our residency in Vegas starts 10th, 11th, and 12th. We have shows here at uh, South Point Casino. So if any of your listeners are coming into Vegas, and then we go to Palm Springs for a show on the 14th. And then I'm going to Nashville on the 18th for a Bucky Heard show. So yeah, it's kind of a cool time in my life where I'm, pardon the pun, but I'm getting to do, I'm getting the best of both worlds. I'm still getting to do the Righteous Brothers, and I'm slowly but surely implementing myself as a solo artist at the same time. So it's kind of cool.
It's fantastic. And I love hearing about these connections too. It really is a small world.
Crazy that you're friends with Leo, man. He's a good dude, and I want to hopefully get to catch you doing your thing. Uh,
Yeah.
so Do you are you planning on wanting to like maybe take it out on the road, or you think you'll pretty much stay in your area, or do you have dreams of expanding and going out and doing it?
I would love to take it on the road and expand it. It's really tough, especially being in ETA because there's so many. And we just listed off so many of them, but there's just the competition is huge.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that's true.
if I do co-headlining shows, maybe like the one I told you I'm working on, that's how to get out there, I think, and hopefully
Yeah.
it will expand.
I think you got I like it that you're so old school, man. I can just tell talking to you and getting your vibe. Like when I said, "Do you know Tony Orlando?" You're like, "Oh, do I know Tony Orlando? Are you kidding?" But a lot of people go, "Oh, it's Tony Orlando." I'm like, "Tie a yellow ribbon." No, I don't know that song. How do you not know that song? How do you not know?
I do that
Um,
song in all my
but
shows too.
they're just so good, and Tony is so amazing in concert. He's just uh, and him and Bill. He calls Bill the professor. And I said, "Why do you call him the professor?" And he said, "Because he taught us all how to do it,"
I've been
which
trying to get him on the
that's saying a
show.
lot. Dude, I have you talked to him or spoken to anybody that's in his camp?
I have tried, but I haven't gotten any responses. But I haven't given up. I talked to Andy Kim earlier on in my seasons, and
I love him.
they're close too. So I'm hoping that he sees it somehow.
Andy Kim, I can help.
Rock Me Gently, but it was his big
Oh,
hit.
rock me gently, yeah. Rock me gently, rock me slowly. That's a great song, man. If you've got something you want me to send to Tony, I could tell him that the guy I just interviewed with that really would like to interview you if you've got time. Uh, maybe when you get this one done, send me this one and send me the one with little Anthony,
Sure.
and I'll here's what Aiden's doing. You'll like him. He's a young guy. He loves Elvis. He's old school. I guarantee. And Tony does his show on NBC. He's got the big radio show out, and that's what he's doing now. So,
Right.
um, but I'd be glad to try to help you in that respect.
That would mean a lot to me. Thank you so much.
You got it, my brother. You got it. Well, thanks for taking time to listen to the record, uh, and for taking some time to promote it. If your listeners, I'd love for them to, follow me on social media. The album, you can stream the album. It's on all formats. Also, on my website, BuckyHeard.com. If you want to go old school, I have albums. Um, I have CDs and Buck merch and all that stuff. But I have a YouTube channel like you do with all my videos and stuff on it. So, I'd be delighted if any of your listeners would care to follow me and stay in touch and check out the tunes. I'd love to hear everybody's opinion on it. And again, thank you for what you do to keep music and old school music alive. Um, and I hope I can catch you doing your act here sometime.
Me too. Me too. It means so much to have been able to talk to you today. I've really been looking forward to it. Thank you for taking the time and for all that you do.
You bet, my brother.
And for
Thanks for
everybody
having
listen,
me. You keep on killing it.
I'm gonna try my best. Thank you. For everybody listening, thanks so much for joining us today. You've been listening to Bucky Heard, an amazing guy, an amazing singer. Check out his new album, Breathless. You will not regret it. You'll love it. I'll link it at the end of this video. Give it a listen and support an amazing musician. Until next time, may God bless you, and I'll see y'all soon.